Good day everyone, this is Catherine D. Umali, one of the reporter for today's lesson. To continue the discussion, I will discuss the Insight Learning Theory by Wolfgang Kuhler. So let's learn! In this lesson, I divided it into three parts: definition, history, and examples. But first, let us know what is Insight Learning Theory. So, insight in learning theory, immediate and clear learning or understanding that takes place without over trial and error testing. Insight occurs in human learning when people recognize relationships that can help them solve new problems. In other words, it is the sudden understanding of the relation between a problem and a solution. By learning through insight, the correct solution not only appears seemingly out of nowhere, but also repeated readily of subsequent presentations of that problem. In history, insight learning derived from an experiment conducted by Wolfgang Kuhler. The experiment that he did is Kuhler placed a banana outside of the cage of a hungry chimps. He gave the chimps two sticks to try to retrieve the banana. The chimps was unsuccessful using both sticks. Wolfgang Kuhler conducted some simple but important studies involving ape behavior that helped lead to the development of the insight learning theory. Kuhler called this cognitive process insight learning. Insight learning does not rely on behavioral or observational learning. It is a purely cognitive experience. In this theory, we have four stages of insight learning. These four stages are preparation, incubation, insight, and verification. Each phase of insight learning can be thought of as a part of a story. The first stage or the introduction of insight learning is the preparation phase. In the preparation phase, the problem is introduced and the subject has the information and materials laid out in front of him or her. The subject begins processing the stimuli in front of him or her and making connections. It is important to know that no solution has been reached in this phase and the subject may experience frustration. This is similar to how the introduction of a story gets the reader familiar with its setting, characters, and conflict. When Cooler placed the banana outside the cage and gave him the two sticks, this demonstrated the preparation phase of insight learning. The second stage or rising action of insight learning is the incubation phase. During the incubation phase, the subject has seemingly given up on the problem. However, the brain is still thinking about the problem unconsciously. In a story, the rising action is the point in the story where the event taking place lead up to the turning point. This is similar to the incubation phase because the brain is unconsciously analyzing the problem, working toward an aha moment or turning point. When the chimp seemingly gave up on trying to obtain the banana, this demonstrated the incubation phase of insight learning. And the third and turning point of insight learning is the insight phase. The insight phase is when the subject has a breakthrough moment in solving the problem. This can also be called an aha moment or an epiphany. This is similar to the story turning point because it is the point where there is a change from the original starting point. The subject does all the work in problem solving to reach this point. When the chimp accidentally puts the stick together, he comes to the realization that he can retrieve the banana with this new combined stick. This is the insight phase of insight learning. And the final stage or resolution of insight learning is the verification phase. The verification phase is when the subject tests the theory generated through the insight phase to see if the solution will work. In other words, the subject verifies the solution to see if it works. The verification phase is like the solution of the story because it is the point where the problem is resolved or the case is closed. And we had an example of insight learning theory. Pupils are in a room and they need to get the book in the top of the bookshelves. They pushes a chair over to the bookshelf in order to stand on it and get the book. And we know that insight learning theory is very important because insight helps in solving problems through one's own efforts. This approach trains the child to solve his problems in life. Therefore, the teacher should make use of problem-solving approach for better learning. He or she should prepare children emotionally and intellectually to solve the problem. And that's it. Here is my references for this report. Thank you everyone.